صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
الثانية على حب الحسن والحسين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
الثالثة بأعلى أصواتكم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
One of my early lectures about the birth of Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam spoke about the importance of his name. What the Imam alayhi salam stood for. The significance of his name. Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam. Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam, why is he called al-Baqer? Well, the word Baqer originates from the three-letter word Baqer, that initially means splitting. Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam, he was the splitter of knowledge. There was a seal. Islam was sealed. Islamic knowledge was sealed. Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam, he split that knowledge and allowed it to proliferate. So when people say that Imam, for example, now a lot of people, we don't usually give Imam al-Baqer the recognition that he deserves. A lot of people, when we ask them who is the main scholar of Tashayyu', we say Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam, and of course we call ourselves Ja'fariyya. But the reason Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam is that scholar, the reason we call ourselves Ja'fariyya, the reason that we allow Tashayyu' to be cemented in and through Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam is because Imam al-Baqer, he was the one who allowed that knowledge to proliferate and reach us through the means of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam. Something I would like to pick on and elaborate further is discourse. Now, discourse 1400 years ago is different to discourse now. Debating. When we think of debates, when people undertake debates, Islamic debates, what are they usually? Usually you see them on, for example, Speaker's Corner, online, Instagram lives, TikTok lives, and they're not really undertaken in a manner that is worthy of being labeled as a Shi'i debate. Because when you label yourself as a Shi'i, you are wearing the crown of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam. You are walking around with pride, saying, good pride, saying that Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq is the person who I get my knowledge from. Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam, Baqer al-Ulum is the one who I get my knowledge from. Lakin, is that really highlighted in the debates that we undertake in today's day and age? Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam, his debates, or let me refrain from using the word debate, his discourse, when he would, munadhara, for example, when he would be, they method the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam in front of the opposition. For example, at that time the opposition was a lot of the Sunni scholars who were under the rule of Bani Umayyah. He would take on akhlaq, respect, honoring the other person, ensuring that this other person understands what's going on, understands what the Imam is saying. The Imam's hadaf, his target, was not to humiliate the opposition. However, that is a lot of people's main targets in our current debates. We often see that we gain knowledge. For the sake of debating, just so I can prove my worth, just so I can prove my presence, right? Whereas we see that the debates or the discourse of Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam, they are still flourishing 1400 years ago, 1300 years ago. But look at those debates online, on TikTok Live, on Instagram Live, Speaker's Corner. They have a clickbait title, the next day after it is posted it is forgotten. Whereas the discourse of Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam, they remain alive today. And they will continue. So inshallah I would like to dissect this further with the help of your loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam was born on the 1st of Rajab. And he was poisoned on the 7th of the Hija by order of Hisham ibn al-Malik, Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik. May Allah withdraw His mercy from him. A lot of people were jealous of the Imam alayhi salam. A lot of people were jealous of the Imam. He was killed out of jealousy. The Imam, subhanAllah, he was 3.5 years old at the Battle of Karbala. Now you can imagine that a child requires this mahabba, seeing fun around them, going to a playground for example, so that they can thrive and they can reach their milestones for example. Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam, he grew up in the environment of Karbala. Now, if you imagine what's going on now in Palestine, you can sort of see something relating to what the Imam alayhi salam grew up with. However, the famous saying of La yawmuka yawmuka ya Aba Abdullah, whatever you imagine those children going through, Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam, he went through 10 times worse. And his hardships cannot even be compared. He endured the trauma at a very young age. But one of the important aspects of his life is that both of his parents he was the first Imam in which both of his parents were from the dhurriyyah of Muhammad wa Muhammad. His mother, his mother was Lady Fatima bint al-Hasan ibn Ali alayhi salam. And his father was of course Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. And his name isn't just significant because Imam al-Baqer or Baqer al-Ulum, but also because Rasulullah named him by name before he was even born. He said to Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, radwanullahi ta'ala alayhi, he says, you will reach an old age, and I want you, when you meet my grandson al-Baqer, I want you to send my salams to him. The Imam, his debating etiquette, I mentioned earlier. And they stick with us. They don't only benefit the opposer, or not the opposer, the person who is debating the Imam, but everyone around them and even us 1300 years later. And how did the Imam alayhi salam achieve this? The Imam taught us that knowledge is a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we undertake these debates, that result in not unity, but further separate us. Then they further separate the Muslims from the non-Muslims, also within the Islam itself, which is even more dangerous. And nowadays, we are seeing Shias throwing other Shias under the bus. Why? Because they follow a different marja, for example, a different political view. And that is the biggest dangerous form of fitna. Because, for example, the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, the school of Ahlul Bayt, we are united upon truth. Other schools of thought are united upon falsehood. They work in harmony together. For example, the school of the Sunnis, you see them a lot of the time, they don't fight each other. They do here and there. But the Shia, unfortunately in the 21st century, we should be united upon truth. However, we are disseminated upon truth. And that is the biggest danger, because we should be united upon truth. The Imam, his hadaf was removing misconceptions. Why? By attacking them directly. And now we often see that we beat around the bush when it comes to misconceptions. And the people who spread the most misconceptions are those who thrive the most on social media, because they are the loudest. And a lot of the youth, we don't understand how dangerous this is, because we're not looking into the intellectual minds of, for example, Sheikh al-Tusi or Sheikh al-Saduq by reading their books. No, we are going to Fulan and Fulan who are spreading misconceptions. Why? Because it sounds good on the internet. Because it sounds good, sounds cool on a video. However, a child, or when a young person hits puberty, they want to prove their worth, right? They want to prove their worth. And when they seek that through means of these people who spread misconceptions, they can leave the true path like this. They can leave the true path like this. And it's very dangerous. It has happened. Therefore, you need to build a strong foundation. And that's why Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam, through his debates and his discourse, that's what he pushed through. That's what he pushed for. Insult upon insult, you this, your books say that. That's not debating. Where is the respect? Where is the patience that Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam taught us? Where is the respect? Where is the patience that Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam taught us? It's not just Imam al-Baqer, Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam. My last lecture on Imam al-Jawad showed that the Imam proved that age, that truth has no limit. Truth has no age limit. And the Imam, through his knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him, his knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him, he humiliated those of Banu Abbas. Not because that was his hadaf to humiliate them, but because they were trying to prove that the Imam was just a young person. He was only 8 years old. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
We need to understand that احنا Shia. When we call ourselves the Shia of the Ahlul Bayt, the Shia of Imam Ali alayhi salam, the Shia of Baqer al-Ulum, the Shia of Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam, we need to understand that we are wearing that as a crown, and we need to wear that as a crown. When we take part in these debates with lack of respect, without following what Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam taught us, this is an insult to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. They went through all of these hardships. Baqar al-ilm, for us to know what La ilaha illallah means today, 1400 years ago. The Imam did not do that just so we can go on debates to prove our worth. Not every ounce of knowledge that you gain should be accommodated for in these little minor debates that have childish tendencies, right? And are here to just boost someone's ego and are there for views. Again, وَأَكَرُّرْهَا, follow the etiquette of Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam and all of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. This is not just Imam al-Baqer. This is the whole of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. One thing we need to understand is that a lot of people from the other school of thought, they are willing to listen. They are willing to listen. And if we undertake these debates and this discourse with true etiquette, we can seriously reach their mind. And هذا علم ينفع. This is useful knowledge. We can reach their minds. This is efficient. But someone needs to do an initial assessment. And what is that initial assessment? Is the person I am trying to debate or have a discussion with, are they seriously worth my time? And it's not because it's my time, but because I need to أنقل روايات عن أهل البيت عليهم السلام. Are they willing to hear me? Are they willing to hear the words of Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam that have lived 1300 years and will live to the end of time? Or are they just there to accommodate for their ego? Or am I just here to accommodate for my ego? Because it's not just the opposition. Someone needs to have some muhasabatun nafs and really look at himself. Am I gaining knowledge for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Am I gaining it for clout, for the followers? And Muhammad Alzahid, am I doing this little preparation so I can sit in front of you and show people my knowledge? No. And a drop in the ocean's worth of knowledge I do not have. But imagine this. Wallah, please picture this. Instead of, for example, debating when you have no knowledge or have not a strong base, if you learn something, one thing, وَهَذَا عِلْمٌ يَنْفَعُ, and you teach it, for example, to your son, or a young child running around in Imam Ali Center. If you teach it to them, and they truly understand what you said, for example, even teaching someone how to pronounce Surah Al-Fatiha properly. هذا الطفل, when he goes to teach his son, and his son teaches their sons, his sons, you have made not only an impact on a little kid, you have made an impact on future generations. وهذا الأجر عند الله الله أعلم. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the ajr that you will receive. Because we need to also understand, and we need to also ask ourselves, why are we here? If I die, are people going to remember me? Remember what I did? What did I do? I mean, what have I يعني شو استفادوا الناس من وجودي وعدم وجودي نفس الشيء. شو راح يستفادون الناس؟ غير على الأقل, the least we can do is teach someone a bit of knowledge that we have gained. Because gaining knowledge and not using it, who's it going to go to? And again, I mentioned that Imam al-Baqer alayhi salam, because of his etiquette, and because of his understanding of this, and his teachings, a lot of them were jealous of him. From the Abbasiyya, بالذات Hisham ibn Abd al-Hakam, ibn Abd al-Malik, afwan. The reason he killed him was out of jealousy. He was fearful that the Imam would attract a lot of people's eyes because of his knowledge. The Imam got shaken, the Khalifa at the time was shaken, so he ordered for his poisoning. The Imam Maghnoom, not only because of that, but he's Maghnoom to this day. Why? Because a certain group of people, a certain political movement destroyed his grave. He's buried in Jannatul Baqer. هذا Imam Baqer al-Ulum, the reason we know La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah alayhi wa waliyullah is because of his proliferation of the knowledge. This Imam, his shrine was destroyed. If you go to Jannatul Baqer, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you visitation to Jannatul Baqer. I have not been, but I have seen pictures where it's a stone. So he's still moving to this day. And today we are commemorating his death. وبهذا نعزي مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان بذكرى استشهاد جده باقر العلوم عليه السلام إمام الباقر، وبذكره الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.